Ben Nicholson Smith, the Blue Jays reporter, gave some insight to some moves that he wants to see the Blue Jays make in the offseason. They're all pretty realistic, and they'll have a definite possibility of happening. So I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, before we get into this video, this is sponsored by Rentals.ca. We're super excited to continue our partnership with them. But Blue Jay fans have been clamoring for some moves to happen in this offseason. Obviously, you can't make them as of yet. But after another season of just underperforming and another season of not meeting expectations, it's time to make some changes, and it is time to make some moves, and it may be time to make some moves in your own personal life as well. So why not spice it up a little bit with rentals.ca?
Yeah, and the website is super clean, super easy to use. You can go to the map and pinpoint exactly where you want to get the new apartment. And Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network, and they've been supporting us for a very, very long time. So if you think it's time to make a move in your life, and hopefully the Jays can make some moves this offseason, make sure to check out the link in the pinned comment and the description as well. And thank you to Rentals.ca once again for sponsoring this video. Peter, let's get into some moves. The ad was about the moves, and now we're talking about some moves some more because Ben Nicholson Smith dropped an article, and there are some very, very interesting moves here. And, we made a video yesterday on how he thinks the Jays are going to trade Alek Manoah. A lot of you guys had a lot to say about that, and kind of similar to what me and Peter had to say. But Peter, there's a guy here, and we're going to start with the most unrealistic possibility to spice it up a little bit, then get into one where Ben Nicholson Smith gets a little bit of insight, specifically revolving around one particular player. So let's get into the first one, which is, this was his first kind of wish list. But so for each one, he gives the reality check and then whether the team would be good. So the unthinkable happens is that the Jays sign, you can read this, Shohei Ohtani, Candelario, Harrison Bader, Lance Lynn, Amed Rosario, Connor Falefa, and they trade Espinal. Now, Peter, this would be the best possible case scenario and also probably the most unrealistic case scenario. I wouldn't say the most unrealistic, but this is essentially the path they'll go down if they sign Shohei Ohtani. He predicts an 11-year, $490 million contract. Reality check, highly unlikely, but it is good that Ben Nicholson Smith threw, the Shohei Ohtani name into the sweepstakes, especially after a couple weeks ago when Shadavidi said Shohei is more likely to go to the Jays than before, but probably still unlikely.
Yeah, I've been on this side of the fence the entire offseason. I just can't see it happening, especially not after the injury that Shohei Ohtani sustained. Obviously, the Jays have been big players on the free agent market over the past couple of years. They've given big-time contracts as well, but these are uncharted waters that they'd have to be stepping into. $490 million would blow whatever record contract that the Blue Jays gave out of the water, and I just don't see them stepping into that territory quite yet. There's only a select few teams that have shown the willingness to do that. Obviously, the Angels have shown the willingness to do that and the ability as well. The ability to do that. Is Rogers willing to go that far? That's not something that we're totally sure about. Obviously, the Yankees are in that conversation. The Red Sox got to be in there as well. The Mets, maybe the Braves, but the Dodgers as well. I mean, there are some teams out there that would give him that amount of money. I just don't know if it's the Blue Jays that are going to go ahead and do it. But Jeimer Candelario is another name that I really like. He had a great season last year. With Washington, and then he went to the Chicago Cubs, and he looked really good over there. So I would like that move. The Jays have a hole to fill at third base, at least in the immediate future, before Relvis Martinez is ready to go. So I like some of those fringe moves that Ben Nicholson Smith brings up, but the main guy for me has got to be Cody Bellinger. I know Shohei is obviously the cash cow on the market, and everyone wants him, but the realistic one here is Cody Bellinger. And even though maybe he's not the same caliber of player, he still makes your team that much better.
Perfect transition. Let's get right into that one. I just wanted to bring this one up because maybe we'll look back in a couple months' time and this is, what happens. But honestly, even if we get Shohei, I don't know if we're going to get all those other players that he mentioned because this would be a pretty ideal scenario. But this one is the one that's very, very interesting, and it's that the Jays win the Bellinger sweepstakes, and the reality check is that it's plausible according to Ben Nicholson Smith. He didn't say very, very likely or anything, but this also gives some insight into some potential moves that could be going down. So this one has the Jays winning the sweepstakes, signing to a 7-year, $168 million contract, then signing Duvall, who mashes lefties, Amed Rosario, who mashes lefties, Evan Longoria, who's a good, solid player, even though he's, at the tail end of his career, and then trading Pearson and Horwitz for Jake Fraley. Peter, Would the team be good? Yes. Is it possible? According to Ben Nicholson Smith, pretty possible. Now, this is the case scenario where if the Jays manage to win the Cody Bellinger sweepstakes, they probably go down a similar path to this, with trading and just augmenting the other sides of you're acquiring a left-handed hitter who doesn't really match lefties a ton, so you're kind of making up for that with some other signings. But what are your thoughts on this one? I like this one a lot.
I do too. And Bellinger's my guy. I think the Blue Jays need to get him. They need to do whatever they can. I mean, we saw the Jays in the Brandon Nimmo sweepstakes last offseason. They ultimately didn't get him because the Mets went those extra couple of years. They gave him 8 years instead of the Blue Jays, who offered around 6 to 7 years. So if you got to go above and beyond to get a guy like Cody Bellinger, put the injuries aside, put the struggles aside, this is a guy that you need considering the season that he had last year. And you need some injected power into that lineup. I know he didn't have those Cody Bellinger-esque power numbers last season, but he stole 20 bases, he hit over 300, hit almost 30 home runs. And this is a guy that's a five-tool player. He can help you out in a multitude of different positions. So the Jays need to go after him. They need to do whatever they can to acquire him. The other names below Bellinger in that screenshot that you showed there, Nick, not big fans of. I mean, they're all aging. Adam Duvall, injury history. Ahmed Rosario, before he went to the Dodgers, wasn't great in Cleveland. Evan Longoria, been a bit of a revelation this postseason for the Diamondbacks, but I don't know how much he has left in the tank. So I would shy away from those guys because you have internal options that could take over those roles that those guys would be filling over there. And I'm talking about Addison Barger, Aurelvis Martinez, Davis Schneider to a certain extent. So I don't know if you need to go out and spend on those veteran guys, but it's not bad to have them around. Jake Fraley's another guy that I like in that list as well. Pretty solid outfielder, can hit a little bit, can steal some bases, play a good center field. So I'd be open to that.
Yeah, and I think Nate Pearson's a guy who is honestly maybe likely to get traded this offseason, just given the situation that he's been in with the team. Maybe he wants a fresh restart. And you can pause here and read if you want Ben Nicholson Smith's explanation of this. He basically just goes on to say, we all know that Bellinger's a very, very good player. He had a couple down years, but last year was, again, like a crazy revelation compared to what he used to be doing. So he kind of just reverted back to his old ways. And he also goes to mention at the bottom, it's a viable path ahead, especially if the Blue Jays truly believe in Manoah and Bowden Francis, which Ben Nicholson Smith doesn't seem to think so. That being said, he's still kind of, even though he threw Alek Manoah in a bunch of trade proposals, he did not in this one, which is why this is a path I would like to see them go down. Like you said, I don't really care as much for the 1 year deals. Maybe get one of those guys that have some veteran presence and a bit more, reliability compared to maybe what some of the minor league guys could do. But I'd rather give Aurelvis Martinez a shot than be throwing out some aged guys out there. That being said, Cody Bellinger is the big one here, and he would win the offseason if the Blue Jays are able to acquire him. And they also have, Santiago Espinal getting thrown in for a prospect or cash to open up some space either for those new guys or for a prospect that we could bring up. But Peter, this is what the lineup would look like with Cody Bellinger. Ben has lifted up this gorgeous graphic of it, so you can pause and read as well, but it's very, very interesting and goes to show what Ben Nicholson Smith was thinking when adding those other external guys. Now, you can replace some of the utility guys with the prospects, but Peter, essentially the lineup versus right-handers is similar to last year, except you have Cody Bellinger in the 2 spot, kind of instead of Brandon Bell, but then you have Jake Fraley as the DH, Evan Longoria down there. The lineup looks pretty deep, and then against lefties is where those offseason moves would have, I guess, taken into full effect there with Duvall, Rosario, and Longoria again. But Peter, the lineup looks pretty good. I like this. I would replace a couple of those or maybe give Aurelvis Martinez a shot at third base instead of Evan Longoria, but I don't hate the idea of having an established guy like Duvall or Rosario, even if they're at the tail end of their careers or struggling a little bit, just because you kind of know where you're going to get with them a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I guess for Longoria is very familiar with the AL East, and he had a lot of success in that division for a long time with the Tampa Bay Rays. So I could see a world in which he does contribute and help out the Blue Jays and maybe work as a stopgap to give
Yeah.
Aurelvis Martinez that extra year to develop in AAA. So I could see that happening, but I still would kind of shy away. It depends. It depends how he finishes off this World Series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Is he going to fade a little bit here? Because we've seen them not really use him unless it's against left-handed pitching. And in that graphic that you showed over there, he's starting against right-handed pitching as well. Can he play a full 162? I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. So I don't know. I still would shy away from him, but I could see a world where he does help out the Blue Jays and buy some time before Relvis Martinez is ready. But let's hope all these guys have a rentals.ca account set up here, because that's a lot of moves that the Blue Jays are going to have to make over there. So a lot of apartments that are going to be that are going to need to be filled over there, and hopefully they can get that set up as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for, the Jays to make some moves as well, because I mean, this would be the biggest change in recent memory regarding the amount of sheer signings into the everyday lineup. We obviously see minor moves here and there, but this one would literally shake 4 out of the 5 of the regular guys. Granted, a lot of them are leaving, and this would also assume Alek Manoah in there. And then there's also this one, which I'm going to throw in, which is not going to happen. You go all in on run prevention again and say screw the hitting and sign McCutchen, Connor Falefa, Rosario, Joe Jimenez. I'm not even going to consider that one, but maybe trading Trevor Richards. Some of you would like that out there, but I think at the end of the day, it'll probably be somewhere in the middle. I really hope we go for Cody Bellinger. Is there a possibility the contract ages poorly because of, maybe he goes back to his old ways? I mean, it's always a possibility, but I think that he provides enough on the defensive end, and he has enough track record to warrant a contract, because if the Jays want to win over the next 2 to 3 years, your best shot is either Shohei Ohtani, which is going to be very, very hard to pull off, and I would love to be proved wrong, but it's most likely Cody Bellinger, and I think you can win the Cody Bellinger sweepstakes. He showed interest in signing here before, so I think that's the one that the Jays might go out and do, maybe similar to some similarities, not player-wise necessarily, to the George Springer situation, where we were never really the top candidate, but we ultimately outbid everyone else and got it done at the end of the free agency market. But any quick final thoughts before I wrap up?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter what moves you make if you're the Toronto Blue Jays. Your whole success next season is contingent on the guys that you have in-house right now and them having a bounce-back season. If Vladdy is below an 800 OPS again, you're not going to go very far. If Bo doesn't hit over 25 home runs and an OPS near 850, probably not going to be too successful. Same thing with George Springer. If he's a league average hitter, Jays may not go too far in the playoffs yet again. So it's great to make all these moves. I want to see it happen just to diversify the lineup a little bit more, just to add a little bit more punch 1 through 9. And I think they need to do that because they showed that they didn't have enough firepower in that lineup last year. But if you get Cody Bellinger and you still get the same lack of performance from your top guys, then it ultimately won't matter. So the Blue Jays need to have a very good offseason here as a collective whole, and then come back ready to go next year in spring training.
Yeah, and hopefully they can make some moves. And if you think it's time to move, check out rentals.ca. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Cheers.
Thanks.